Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Welcome to the 12th Annual Mass General Leadership Council for Psychiatry Visiting Day. I'm Donna Emma, co-chair of the Leadership Council, and along with my fellow co-chair, Patty Ribakoff, I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. We come together today as a community of champions and advocates in the mental health sphere, all of us bound by the desire to eradicate mental health stigma and aid those who suffer from debilitating mental illnesses. Today is sure to be filled with inspiration, education, and community, and we are very excited to connect with all of you throughout the day.
That's right, Donna. So we will begin this special day hearing from Dr. Maurizio Fava, Psychiatrist-in-Chief, who will describe some of the work going on in the department that is flourishing under his leadership. We will then hear from our deeply talented and accomplished faculty leaders who will speak on a variety of topics ranging from their revolutionary research, while others will focus on clinical innovations. After the plenaries conclude, we will move to lunch, over which we'll hear a very special patient story from a remarkable young lady who has overcome several challenges throughout her childhood. Stories from our patients have been among the most captivating parts of Visiting Day, so we will look forward to hearing Maggie. After that, we will have the opportunity to speak with Ellen Bratton and come back into this room, and there'll be various tables to catch up with some of the docs. And so without further ado, to open our 12th Annual Visiting Day, please allow me to introduce Dr. David Brown, President of Mass General Hospital. Having devoted his career to Mass General and the well-being of its patients, Dr. Brown is a devoted champion of the innovative life-changing research and care that Mass General clinicians perform each and every day, and the impact that this work has on our patients, their families, and the field of psychiatry. So at this time, please welcome my dear friend, Dr. David Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Patty, for that warm welcome. Thank you, Patty and Donna, for leading this group. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome all of you to our 12th Annual Psychiatry Visiting Day. I want to just say a little bit about our Department of Psychiatry. So at MGH, I'm about to fall off the stage here. At MGH, all of our departments are wonderful, but psychiatry really stands out. Psychiatry has an enormous impact in clinical care, stepping forward when many health systems are stepping away. Psychiatry has an enormous footprint in education and an enormous and innovative footprint in research, while continuing to elevate the health and well-being of the communities that we serve. Maurizio Fava, who you'll hear from shortly, our Psychiatrist-in-Chief, inherited a strong foundation, but in his nearly 4 years now as department chair, he has built something that we can all admire and be proud of in psychiatry. And with your help, your continued help, your guidance, your counsel, your engagement, he will continue to lead a department that tries to meet the ever-growing need of our patients. As an emergency physician for 30 years and an MGH lifer, I have both a personal and professional perspective on the need for psychiatric services and the impact of behavioral and mental health on patients and families. As I said, I practiced in the emergency department, where I saw firsthand how dysregulation of psychiatric illness impacts patients and their families as more health systems have stepped away from providing services that aren't well remunerated. At MGH, we've stepped forward under Maurizio's leadership, building out our emergency services, building out our clinical services, expanding our educational opportunities, broadening the footprint of those who can provide care, allowing everyone to operate at the top of their license. And then on a personal level, some of you know that I am the son of a brilliant woman, a psychologist, Eva Brown, who also struggled with her own mental illness. Bouts of bipolar disease interrupted her life and her profession periodically throughout her life. And so I've seen the impact on a family. I was part of that family. And our mantra, as you all know, is no family goes untouched, and I feel that personally. So the neurosciences writ large and psychiatric diseases specifically are woven into the fabric of what MGH is. It's a bit unusual, actually, for a large general hospital like MGH to have a department of psychiatry of this vibrancy. But we really think it's essential because it's not just delivering care to patients who have psychiatric disease, it's also supporting patients with psychiatric disease while they have other mental health problems, other health problems. And so we see our psychiatric services matrixed across our organization, helping in the transplant area, helping in patients who face chronic illness, helping in cancer, helping with our pediatric services, as well as taking care directly of our patients with acute and chronic psychiatric needs. So this group, as I said, we can't do all this without this group. This group has come together now for more than a decade with innovative ideas, with thoughtful guidance, with philanthropic support, and it's all necessary. It's all necessary because we face enormous headwinds in healthcare. Maurizio and I have spent a lot of time recently talking about just that and how he and I can partner together in this particularly difficult time to ensure that our commitment to our patients isn't lost. And again, I thank you all for your commitment and support of the mission. So I do want to thank our volunteer leaders of this group, and in particular, I want to call out Patty Ribakoff, who went back and sat where I was sitting over there. So Patty's been a member of this council since 2010. I believe she's transitioning out as the chair of the council today. I'd actually like to invite her to the stage for a little bit of recognition. No, you can't get away with this. I do appreciate, though, that you reduced my introduction to 3 sentences like I asked, but the last several times you introduced me, you didn't, so you need to come up. This is a gift for you. You can slide on the other side of me. I'm going to read what this says. So we thought it was important to mark this event with a formal declaration of appreciation, which is what Patty has here framed. And I'm just going to read what it says. And I can't read it there because of the bow, but I'll read it from here. It says, Declaration of Appreciation. Massachusetts General Hospital gratefully acknowledges Mrs. Patricia F. Ribakoff. On Monday, the 5th of June, 2023, we proudly celebrate Mrs. Ribakoff's invaluable role as co-chair of the Massachusetts General Hospital Leadership Council for Psychiatry and her years of dedication. We sincerely appreciate her dedication, dutiful oversight, and commitment to our mantra, no family goes untouched. Her service and generosity of time, talent, and treasure has helped us remain one of the preeminent medical institutions in the world and inspires us to constantly drive the field of psychiatry forward. On behalf of the clinicians, patients, and families whose lives have been transformed by your dedication, we extend our deepest thanks and are proud to recognize your leadership. Patty, on behalf of all of us in the room, all the patients, their families, thank you so much. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I'd like to invite Dr. Maurizio Fava to the podium.
Thank you so much, David, for your wonderful remarks. You are and always have been an incredible champion and advocate for psychiatry, so thank you. And we're so fortunate to have you at the leading our hospital. But I want to congratulate Patty because her incredible dedication, hard work, her sense of humor has kept us going during the pandemic time, and it's been a true honor and pleasure to have you as a co-chair. But I am delighted to know that you will stay as vice chair ex officio, staying with us and continuing joining other prior co-chairs, Michelle and Carol, providing wisdom, knowledge, and really making what we do even more effective and helpful to others. So thank you, Patty. It was really a pleasure to have you serve as co-chair. So I think that one of the things that I have to say, I'm thrilled to be here and to have you all in person. The pandemic, I think, with all our virtual events, didn't quite do justice to the interactions, the human interactions that happen in a live event. So today is a day that is filled with inspiration, education, and community. And I'm excited to connect with you throughout the day. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Lorraine Bressel. Now, Lorraine may have left, but Helen Cholowski-Biederman, I want to acknowledge both of them this morning. Thanks to the generosity of Lorraine and her late husband, Alan, they started the Bressel program for autism spectrum disorder, which is, I think, one of the gems of our department, and just recently made a gift to endow the program. This is so important for kids that often don't find the right answer to their struggles. And Helen is the wife of the late Dr. Joe Biederman, who led the Bressel program at Mass General for 17 years before they passed away in January. He was a force of nature, the most cited psychiatrist in the world, and an incredibly passionate researcher, clinician. And so I'm so happy to see the vision and passion of both of these families continue on today. So thank you, Lorraine and Helen. So Lorraine, we'll thank her later. I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to honor your work. I also want to welcome current members and new friends of the Leadership Council for Psychiatry. Much of what you learned today was made possible thanks to your continued support and deep commitment to our department and to the cause of mental health. In fact, if you're not a member of our Leadership Council, please talk to Alex Dipple, because we feel that this is an incredible community, and please consider that. Our department has emerged clearly in the past few years, probably the most innovative department in the country. We're developing new models of care that no one else has access. In our inpatient unit, we have a transcranial magnetic stimulation machine that, with an accelerated model of stimulation, can get people better in 24 hours. We have an incredible ketamine clinic that gets people better very quickly. And in fact, one of our professors, Amit Anand, in our department, just published in the New England Journal of Medicine a paper that showed proved ketamine to be as effective as electroconvulsive treatment. And as you know, ECT has been known for decades to be the most effective treatment of depression. So very exciting developments. And thanks to our very innovative minds of our faculty and staff. So as racial and ethnic inequities continue to plague the healthcare system, our department sought to deepen our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We welcome new staff, and we've actually succeeded in recruiting more diverse faculty than ever, representing both racial and ethnic groups typically underrepresented in medicine and in psychiatry. And our work with grateful patient families has also helped to recognize current faculty with the creation of 2 MGH chairs, the David T. and Joanne Rovey Endowed Chair in Psychiatry, and the David T. and Joanne V. Rovey Endowed Chair in Child Psychiatry, and a new Harvard professorship we're very excited about, the Donovan Sheen Family Professors. So 3 endowed chairs, and 2 of them will go to female faculty in our department. I'm very excited about that. These new chairs and professorship allow us to recognize the incredible work that our faculty is doing. And it's so important because it anchors them to our department. You have no idea how often our leaders, are asked from other departments, will you come and join us? They have recruitment packages offered. And thanks to all of you, we're able to, I would say most of the time, to retain them and retain their talent, and it's so important. As I mentioned, I'm also pleased to launch of a new division of professional and public mental health education, which combines the work of our Psychiatry Academy and the Clay Center. And I would like to especially thank Dr. Jim Beresin, who's here, Director of Education of this new division. We've had an extraordinary year, and I'm incredibly proud of the team of our department and their tireless dedication. Mental health care is challenging, requires tremendous dedication, and even more so due to the pandemic. We've seen a tripling of anxiety and depression in the general population, particularly younger people. But the passion and brilliance of our colleagues is second to none and inspires me daily. Now, I would like to take a moment to recognize our keynote speaker, very special keynote speaker, Dr. Paula Rauch. She's retiring after an extraordinary 40-year career at Mass General. Paula actually interviewed me when I applied for residency, so I'm particularly grateful to her. She has practiced at Mass General since 1982, is an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, and she's the founding director of the Marjorie Korff Parenting in the Challenging Time, or PACT program, specializing in the impact of medical illness or on families and on the emotional health and well-being of children. This was really a pioneering effort to recognize a problem that many parents face. So she has received numerous awards and honors throughout her career, has authored countless articles, chapters, and books. I think that the one thing that kind of struck me, it's kind of a fun fact about Paula, is that she acts as a consultant to the PBS cartoon Arthur, and I have to say that it's one of my favorite, characters. So thank you, Paula, for doing that. In the keynote address, Paula will speak on living legacy, a long career of parent guidance at the end of life. At this time, please welcome to the stage Dr. Paula Rauch.
Lucky for me that I get a little credit for having interviewed Maurizio. So this is the hardest talk that I have ever tried to write. Coming to this point after 41 years at the end of a long, meaningful clinical career and trying to decide what of so many things did I want to most share with you today. And my goal is to get through this without crying, and I got my water. I chose the title Living Legacy to talk about legacy from different perspectives, in part because it's been so much on my mind. The term, particularly living legacy, is something that I coined when I was caring for young parents who were facing their untimely deaths. Many times they would ask the question, should I be writing multiple letters, one for each of the future milestones that my child will experience, one for every future birthday that will happen that I won't be able to give them a hug? And, as heartfelt and amazing an idea that is, it turns out to be actually impossible to write a loving, attuned letter for every future event in a child's life before you know who your child's going to become, before you know what obstacles will be on their path, before you know what their real questions might be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and more down the line. So instead, for many, many years, I've encouraged parents and all of us to identify our living legacy. Who are the people who know you well from different times in your life? The people you would trust to give good guidance to your child warmly and in real time. Who would be willing to have coffee or a meal with your child many, many years into the future, or maybe 2 weeks after a parent dies? Being able to share those stories that are just right for the moment in an older child's life or in response to a challenge, that's what the living legacy can do. A person you trust is able to be attuned in a way that a letter written so many years in advance just can't be. One of the mothers that came to my mind was a mother who was in the last day of her life with her teenager, her daughter, at the bedside. Her daughter was crying, understandably, and fearful of saying goodbye to her mom. Her mother said in these beautiful words that I can't quite capture, she said, "Any night, pick a quiet spot, pick any star in the sky, and you'll hear my voice because my love is so deep inside you, and it always will be there." I knew this mother well, and I could see the fear on her daughter's face. So I said to her, if it's hard for her to find that voice of yours, to know what you would say, who can she talk with? I knew the answer. This mom said, "My sister and my mother, they know us so well, they love us so much, and they will be there for her forever." They were that living legacy. Loving parents provide such a range of loving support and guidance for their children. They leave very big shoes to fill, in fact, ones that can only be partially filled, and by a mosaic of trusted and loving adults. Many times, the living legacy and other trusted adults are in addition to a surviving loving parent, but sometimes there is no other parent, or the other parent is not one that the dying parent has confidence in. And at those times, that living legacy is even more important. Relationships with parents continue to evolve long after a parent dies. I know that's absolutely true for me, and has been what I've heard from so many parents and older children over the years. I thought about another young man, a college student, who contacted me and asked if he could come and see me when he was coming home on vacation. I had cared for him along with his family when his mother was in treatment for cancer and died while he was still in high school. He actually said, "I actually don't know why I'm coming to see you, but I think you'll know." And ultimately I did. He told me that he'd stopped using marijuana and that he was doing really well at the elite university he was attending. These were the exact things that his mother had so much wished for him, but he just hadn't been able to get there in her life. He said to me, "Does it sound crazy, but I still talk to my mother in my mind, and really our relationship has gotten so much better." I said, "It's not crazy at all." All relationships evolve after someone dies. I knew he had come looking for the affirmation, and I think he wanted to tell another mom who knew his mom well that he was doing well. So I ask you today, whose living legacy are you? Is there a lunch or a cup of coffee with someone that you might decide to have? Are you the living legacy for your parents, a dear friend, a sibling, or sadly some of you for a child? What do you want to carry forward on their behalf? How do you honor them in the way that you live? One thing I can say unequivocally is that the impact and value of a person's life is not defined by the number of years lived. Each life they touch directly and indirectly is part of that legacy, and that lives on. I've had the privilege of knowing children, amazing kids who died at 8 and 10 and had a profound impact on me and on so many others. Really, the impact and value of a person's life is not defined by the number of years lived. At the end of life, time is recognized as precious, but in reality, as corny as it sounds, time is always precious. So treat it as something that's precious. Spend time with the people you love and care about, and give them your full attention when you do. That adage about what people think about at the end of life is true. At least no one I've ever met said, "Oh, I wish I kept my kitchen cleaner," or "Maybe I should have gotten to a work email a little faster." That's not it. They talk about their relationships. They talk about the important missions of their lives. So give your time and attention to the people you care about most and the missions that make your heart sing. And also give time and attention to yourself, because you matter too. Children are often our North Star. Facing a life hard choice, what I've learned at the bedside is challenge yourself to think about what you'd want your child to do in the same situation. We're often kinder and more clear-hearted and clear-headed about our priorities for what we hope for our children than what we expect of ourselves. And by the way, our children are watching us. So do for yourself what you hope they would do faced with a similar situation. Say what you want to say while you have the ability to say it. It's rare to have the emotional energy, clarity of thought, or ability to tell the most important people in your life what they mean to you when you're dying. So really don't wait until you're dying. One of the greatest gifts my own father gave us was a talk he had with my two brothers, my mother, and me the night before his cardiac surgery at age 80. He hoped he'd survive, and he told us all the many reasons why. He also told us all the reasons why he felt lucky, and I'm going to talk a little more about that later. But he said that if he didn't wake up from surgery, he'd still feel incredibly lucky. He gave me a chance to choke out my own heartfelt thank you. He recovered well from that surgery, and we had 5 more great years with him. But when he was dying, there was really nothing left that needed to be said, and that was an incredible gift. To be honest, what I've seen about dying is that it's hard. It's exhausting emotionally and physically, and it's often scary. It's painful to see the people who love you most suffering in anticipation of saying goodbye to you. I think part of what makes it so hard for so many parents to share their cancer diagnosis with their children is anticipating the pain on their child's face when the news is shared, and then, of course, all the worry that will ensue. That said, it's still also the better choice. Children benefit from hearing difficult news from their parents, not by overhearing it or feeling excluded from it, never alone or confused, but spoken with directly and respectfully. Sharing difficult news allows a child to continue to trust that parent and to process the challenge with them. It's a hard truth, but it's one that isn't only about talking with children. It's good advice for all of us who may want to protect people we care about from hard news by excluding them. Communication allows the most powerful life lessons to be processed together. I wonder if any of you have a hard conversation you might want to have. We can't bubble wrap the ones we love from hard realities, but communicating, or by what I call making it talk-aboutable, we can ensure that our children, our grandchildren, and the others we care deeply about are not left to struggle alone. Talking about it makes it less confusing and less scary, and usually there's something, even if it's just little, that you can do to make it a little bit better, and that's big. Facing challenges together enables problem solving, and really that's what coping is. Learning to face challenges together is essential to resilience. The difference between a difficult experience becoming a challenge or becoming a trauma is most often not the magnitude of the adversity, and that is certainly true about a slow motion hardship like a parent's cancer. It's about whether the experience is one where you feel helpless and alone, or conversely engaged, supported, and comforted. Traumas render people more fearful and less confident about the future, and challenges faced together offer a sense of confidence and competence and increase life skills and courage for facing the obstacles ahead. Share your own resilient stories, the ones where your life wasn't easy for a time, but it got better. When you're in a trough or a low point, resilience narratives remind us that there will be a peak again in the future. Make part of your legacy sharing your own resilient stories and noticing the resilience of the people you care about. On a personal note, as I reflect on my 4 decades of clinical care, I've been reminded how often people have asked me what led me to a career focused on the emotional challenges of medical illness in the family and so much end-of-life work. I've had many different answers over the years, and each of them has been true at the time. Early on, I'd usually say something like, if I didn't know that children in our hospital were suffering, it would feel fine not to do something about it. But since I know children and adults are suffering, it feels so much better to get in there and do something to be helpful, because for me, the antidote of helpless is helpful. I'd also want people to understand how much wonderful life-affirming time and how much joy can also happen amidst the sadness in that precious time. I've also talked about the story of a good friend who was treated for cancer when our children were young. She's a grandmother now, who asked me for a referral to a clinician who could help her ensure the emotional health of her children because she had just finished treatment. I was shocked when there wasn't someone with this particular expertise in our community. And together, she and I figured it out. But helping her helped me uncover an unmet need in a hospital that was responsive to my wish to address that need. And that's how the Parenting at a Challenging Time program was born. I've often talked about the lessons from being a parent. I love being a parent, and it's always humbling, and how that informed my wish to help other parents. But for the grace of God, go I. I could have been in the situation of any of the parents I've cared for over the years, and I hope I have done for them what I would have wished someone would do for me and mine. But these days, I find myself for the first time really reflecting a lot on my experience as a child and on my own parents, both of whom are no longer living, and I'm part of their living legacy. Going back to my childhood history, when my mother was pregnant with me, my father ruptured his gallbladder and almost died. The story went that my mother knew that what she would do is to go back to Brooklyn, go back to working full-time, be near my grandparents, and we would have managed, but gosh, we were so lucky we didn't have to. I've wondered sometimes whether that almost loss shaped my future. Could that be it? Is that what's made it so compelling? It might be a part of it, but I don't think it's the biggest part. In that pre-surgery talk that my father gave that I referenced a few minutes ago, his almost goodbye, he talked about how lucky he felt that his parents were brave enough to leave Europe when they did, that he was assigned to being an artist in World War II and not sent overseas, and that he married the one love of his life, my mother. He held my mother in the highest regard, we always knew it, and attributed everything that was important about raising us to be the adults that he loved and was so proud of to my mother. My dad was a geneticist, so he joked that he also loved seeing all that his genes had become and was loving seeing his grandchildren grow and develop, more gene expression at work. And as I said earlier, he was clear that he wasn't ready to die, but if he did, he wanted us to know how lucky he would consider himself to be, that funerals were for the living, and that we should do whatever was good for our mother. There is, however, another part of this story. My mother suffered from recurrent severe depressions. They came on suddenly and lasted several weeks to months, about every 4 to 5 years, starting when she was 12. She told me that at her birthday every year after she turned 12, when she blew out the candles, the wish she would make was to say, feeling as happy as she was on her birthday. She couldn't understand why she got depressed. My mother was gregarious. She loved people. She found every person interesting and remembered every detail of every person's life until the day she died at 87. She was a beloved teacher. She loved being a mom. And she felt lucky, always, except when she was depressed. She couldn't understand her depressions, what caused them, and neither could I, not until I went to medical school and learned about depression. So I had all the components in place that support child resilience: an attuned parent, my mom, or my dad when my mom was depressed, and my maternal grandmother as a bonus. We lived in the same house all my life, except for a couple of sabbatical years away, in a neighborhood where everybody knew each other, where there was an excellent school system in which I thrived, and I had a pretty easy temperament, so generally, people liked me. And that's the secret sauce for resilience: attuned adults, stability, community, and if you're lucky, an easier temperament. The only missing ingredient was communication. My mother's episodic depressions before she received treatment in my adulthood were baffling and upsetting to me. She referred to them as having a sleep problem, and she didn't sleep sometimes for months at a time. So it was true, but clearly it wasn't the whole story. She became someone almost unrecognizable in the worst of these episodes. Confusion is the enemy of coping. My parents did everything they knew how to do right, but it wasn't talk-aboutable. In my adulthood, we talked about it some, but it seemed like water under the bridge by then. So honestly, I think my career has been most influenced by how compelling it is for me to help children not feel alone and confused at tough times, and to help loving parents talk with their children, include them in the conversations, make the confusing less confusing and hopefully less overwhelming. Communication has been at the center of my clinical career all these years. I laughed when a colleague referred to me as the word wizard, both because of the focus I have had on hard conversations, but mostly because I have so many weird phrases and analogies. Talkaboutable is one of them. I've enjoyed seeing my quirky expressions travel without me. I saw my term captain of kindnesses for the person who organizes the well-wishers when someone's in treatment, in the New York Times, written about by a patient I never met, treated at Cantor Center, that I have never consulted to. It's my hope that my quirky and I hope also common sense words will travel without me, and that will be part of my legacy. I'm sad for my mother, who endured so many episodes of depression. But I know that my mother's depressions played an oversized role in my endless optimism, and I am ridiculously optimistic. I lived that resilience roller coaster. I know that no matter how dark things are, they can be bright again. In my experience, they were bright again. And that helped me to be able to hold the hope for others all these years when, for a time, they couldn't hold it for themselves. I love the quote, "Rarely can you make life longer, but you can always make it broader and deeper." My career at the MGH has been beyond anything my younger self could have imagined, and I am deeply grateful. I've met and learned from wonderful families, often at the hardest times in their lives. They granted me the sacred privilege of the intimate relationship between doctors and patients. I've had amazing colleagues who I've learned from and with, and I'm grateful to all of them. I'm especially grateful to Dr. Cindy Moore, who'll be taking over the role of director of the Marjorie Korff PACT program and the honor of being the Timothy Christopher Davidson chair. We've been partners in the program we love for many, many years, and I have total confidence that the program will thrive in her able and compassionate hands. I'm so lucky. I've been fortunate to have breathtakingly generous donors with whom I have shared the mission of the PACT program and without whom none of this would have been possible. There is no way to express my full gratitude. Many of you in this room in life are legacy living with your philanthropy. You've made life-changing research and clinical work possible that has altered the lives of children and adults that you'll never know. You should feel amazing about your legacy work, and I personally thank you. I joked once at a leadership meeting in Palm Beach saying, I specialize in loss. I had just given a talk about grief and loss, but what I said in an unscripted moment, a very unscripted moment, was that everything I do at MGH loses money. I specialize in that kind of loss too. It's true. Our program's endowment, the operating fund gifts, compassionate leaders, and devoted administrators, together they've made it possible for me and for our team to do our meaningful work at no cost to the patients and families. There's lots of legacy living and legacy leaving in this shared commitment. The MGH is an amazing place with an incredible 200-year legacy of caring for and caring about people. I'm personally not exactly sure what my next chapter will look like, but I have the confidence that whatever comes, I will ride the waves, and when there are the inevitable low points, the troughs that come my way, that I will be expecting the peaks that follow. I walked into the MGH as a very young 26-year-old clinician, and I am walking out as a very grateful 67-year-old, and I thank each of you so much.